spend 30 minutes together discussing grounded positivity, leadership skills and tools, and mainly focusing not on the skills today, but on the tool of transitioning. And this is what I really found. Change happens and it's outside of us, and there's nothing much we can do about it. And sometimes it's something we don't like. Transformation is actually the future of what we want to create. However, transition is the key missing element while going through change that really is under our control. And this is where the power lies. And this is my focus today. But nonetheless, I'm going to take you through some skills that are necessary to be grounded in positivity as a leader or as a business owner or as an entrepreneur. So basically, what are our objectives? Basically, to develop certain skills, to see how to remain agile and adaptive and resilient in what we call today a VUCA world that is filled with volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity, and also how to mitigate and pivot as a leader, as a person, and also as a business to create the new, more normal and actually remain relevant with whatever is going around us. And ideally is to become a full spectrum leader, but we're going to leave it to another day. It's a topic that requires much more time. So it is not the strongest who survive, nor the most intelligent, but those who are most responsive to change. And I believe after everything we've gone through, locally, regionally, and now internationally, it has proven itself right as a quote. So basically, it's our capacity to be able to navigate all these uncertainties and actually become more proactive than reactive in an ever-changing world. So what is energy? Energy is our capacity for doing work. And it's really important because now I want to discuss attitude and energy and how they relate and why they are important to remain grounded in positivity as leaders and business owners. So our capacity for doing work is very important. But what is also important is actually our attitude, because as Viktor Frankl said, anything can be taken from a man, but the power of his attitude, choosing his attitude at any given moment. And I truly believe in this. So basically, what are we looking at? If we look at this quadrant, we would see at one side, we have the attitude, and at the bottom side, we have the energy. And you see at the corner down to the left, it's low attitude, low energy. And at the left upper part of this quadrant, it's high attitude, and at the right end of the lower quadrant is high energy. So when our energy is low and our attitude is low, we become a victim. And what is a victim? Victim is someone who says, it's not my fault, it's happening to me, and I can't do anything about it. And I understand because, whatever is happening to us is not personal, but it is intimate at the level of how it impacts us. And definitely we have to acknowledge that. Now, when our attitude is low and our energy is high, and I'm moving to the quadrant at the right-hand side, we become martyrs. So we become kind of cynical, and we will go like, okay, I'll do it, but it won't work. It's like, رفع عتب يعني بالعربي. Okay, but when our attitude is high and our energy is low, we become spectators, we become complacent, we become, okay, well done, show me what you can do, and we'll see if it works or not. But what we really want to be most of the time, because we are human beings and not human doings, we need to remain high on attitude and high on energy, so we become the players in our lives. So we become the people who are really actually playing the game, falling down, and then picking ourselves and moving forward again. And hopefully what I'm going to do today is equip you with key skills very quickly, and then talk about the transition. So does it make sense? And if it makes sense to you, please, I would like to see some reactions. Yeah. So What I'm trying to say here is at any given moment, we are able to develop strategies for us to move in these roles to ensure that we are players all the time. And how do we build our energy? And this is very briefly, our energy has really 4 containers: the physical one, the mental one, the emotional one, and the spiritual one. And it's very important to look at these 4 energy containers and ask ourselves the right questions. What do I need? What habit do I need to develop to be physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually filled at the level of my energy, so I can have the stamina and the intrinsic motivation to keep going forward within difficult times. Hence, grounded positivity. And grounded positivity is not the absence of negativity. It is actually the place on the spectrum between negative and positive, where it's in the middle and tension is happening. So it's like, you know, the game, the rope game, which is tug of war. You know, if you are playing in 2 teams and you are pulling the rope at each side, the tension is in the middle, and this is where really things are happening. And if you don't have this tension, the rope will go down. So we want to be in this middle of the spectrum, while being anchored in reality, which means we are very aware of what's happening with us, with curiosity and hope, because this is the only thing that can keep us going: curiosity and hope. And why do we need curiosity and hope? Because we want to create a new beginning. We want to pivot. We want to stay relevant to whatever is going around us, to remain sustainable at all levels, at the personal level, at the business level, at the community level, and at the nation level, hopefully. Yeah. So we look at the spectrum, and the spectrum I've already explained. It's being in the middle exactly. And, you know, everything is happening to us. So we need to change our perception between the external, the event, which is external, and the internal response that we have that will generate our external response, which will actually really impact our results at the end of the day. I'm working from my laptop. All right. Okay. So the 5 key skills, and they are not only 5. Grounded positivity as a whole toolbox and skills box is between 8 and 9, depending on what we're working on. Today, I want to share the 5 really fundamental skills that are important for us to be grounded positive leaders or grounded positive entrepreneurs in that sense. The first one is what matters most, which is our values. The second one is gaining control based on our internal locus of control, not our external one. The third one is the power of our mindset and how to access our growth mindset in times of crisis and all the times. And I'm going to say what's the difference between the fixed and the growth mindset, and our ease with uncertainty. And what glues all these skills together is our capacity to be socially and emotionally intelligent. And this is one of the key skills, and this is where I'm going to start. And unfortunately, we're going to go through them very quickly because, as I said, we don't have enough time to cover them at depth, but we'll do my best to take you in a useful manner. So when we look at emotional intelligence, we're talking about self-awareness and behavioral control, and social awareness and relationship management. And why is this important? Because during the time of crisis, specifically, it is very important that we understand what is going on. We process the thoughts, the feelings, and we anchor in our values, which is what matters most, in order for us to be able to interpret the emotional data and create the appropriate response. And from an empathetical place, we will be able to do the same by understanding others, to engage and respond while holding our own reality, so we can manage relationships. And this is really important in times of crisis. The second one are the values. What is important most to me, and why are values very important? And we could do a full session on that, but very quickly. Values, remember, they are a reflection of our needs. They are what we find important to do to take our decisions. It is our intrinsic motivator. So our energy is coming from inside. Remember the energy containers. I would add another fifth one. It's the understanding of our values and how to live them properly. And it's also the source of our aspirations and intentions. And when we talk purpose in business, our purpose in life and in business is actually anchored in our values. So do take some time to understand what your values are and how you can translate them into behaviors and actions. The locus of control. What is the locus of control? It is looking at things from two different perspectives. What is happening outside of me, the situation, is out of my control. So if I focus on it, I'm actually acting passive, and I'm being the victim or the martyr, and I would say things are happening to me. Whereas if I shift my focus from that external locus of control to my internal locus of control, I become more active, and I really start working on where my control lies, and I start making things happen. And this is another key skill that we have to build in ourselves when we are understanding what's going on and trying to pivot to see what will the future for us or for our business look like and how we can remain relevant. A little exercise that you could do is just draw a couple of circles. The internal one is what you control, and the external one is the ones that you don't control. And when you focus on what you can control, let's take the example of let's say the war now. How often do I check the news? How frequently do I unlock my phone? These are all things that are under my control. And we can also put, specific things that are under our control within the business we are running or we are planning to start, or no matter what phase we are living, against to what we do not control. So I'm anchored in reality, right? I know what's happening outside of me. To remain relevant, I need to understand. It's not like I'm in denial, because denial will not serve me. And then curiosity and hope is internally. What do I have control over? What can I do to make things happen, to create, to pivot, to shift into what is possible within these times? And opportunity is always, there are always opportunities in crises. And I think we've learned a lot about it during COVID, for example. The mindset, which I think is also very important, is comparable between fixed mindset and growth mindset. What we have to understand, and very briefly, they are both accessible to us. But when we look at where we stand on the mindset, we look at 5 key things. The skills, if we believe we can build skills and remain up to date and upskill ourselves. How we deal with challenges. Can we avoid them? Will they go away, or we are just heading, facing them up? The effort we need to put. And yes, I understand we are tired. Everybody's tired, but without effort, we cannot get anywhere. How we receive feedback from people and from what's happening from outside, and what do we do with it, and how we deal with setbacks. And I think we've been dealing with setbacks for the past 3-4 years, if not longer. I lost count. I don't know about you, but I lost count. Anyway. And then how do we navigate uncertainty? And this is the 5th skill. And actually it's relevant to the VUCA world I spoke about. So VUCA, we always, I love this quote. It says, the best thinking is in demand today and tomorrow, because we can build on our previous experiences. Yes, we can learn from the past, but what we're going through is unprecedented and unseen. So it's always the best thinking. But if we look at how to counter VUCA in general, we counter volatility with vision. So do have a very clear vision of where you're heading from here until the future, from now, based on what happened. We counter uncertainty with understanding, curiosity, be curious, understand what's going on. Complexity, we counter it with clarity. Be clear, create a new direction with a certain clarity that you and everybody on your train or on your bus or in your team understands it. And ambiguity is actually countered with agility, adaptability, resilience. And I know we've heard these words like a million times, but you know what? These are skills we can learn. And if you want to learn more how, contact me after this workshop or this little talk, I would say. And I'd like to remind you, any comments, any questions you have, and I know I might be going a little fast, please put them in the chat. I will be more than happy to address them by the end of our session today. So how do we do that? We do our internal and external audits. We revisit how relevant we are still within these circumstances. We identify new opportunities, and we mitigate risks with plan. So we always put a plan A, plan B, plan C. And I think, and I'm addressing Lebanese here, I don't know if we have non-Lebanese with us. We are so good at doing this. Unfortunately, we became the masters of it. And then we have to identify the necessary steps that will really ensure that we are bridging the gap between where we are now and where we are there. And it's all about creating direction for everybody to be on board with it, alignment, so people are okay, aligned on the values, aligned on the strategy, aligned on the steps, on the roles and everything else. And finally, we need to gain commitment. People need to know and need to understand what is their role in achieving this pivot that we are doing or actually heading towards, or any change for that matter, any transition. So these are the skills, as I said, covered very briefly. Hope they were useful, not only interesting. And the question comes, how do we navigate a crisis to pivot? And we look at it. Again, change is rational because it happens outside of us and we don't have control. Transition is emotional. It takes place internally within us. And this is where our control lies. So with transition, we go back to our locus of control, which is the internal one, not the external one. Change is in the external one. And then change plus transition, equals behavioral change. And then mind shift and behavioral change equals transformation. So hence, we have created something different. We have created something new in a very structured manner, using the skills and the tools that are available to us in order to do that. Okay, so again, grounded positivity is about being bold, being brave, and being brilliant. And it's all about learning and development, actually. And if we stay in our comfort zone and fear zone, we will always lack confidence, will be intimidated by the outside, and will find excuses. However, shifting into the learning zone, and now I will link this model to the transition model, we will start being receptive to the outside input, we will acquire new skills, we will ignite our problem-solving hats. And again, by talking with everybody around us. If I'm an entrepreneur alone, I do have people that I work with, talk to them. If I have a team, talk to your team, because multiple brains are able to create much more than one alone. Although you might be the leader, but leaders nowadays do ask for help, do ask for support. And it's okay to say we need help and we don't know. And then we reach to the growth zone through the process where we expand the vision, we surpass the milestones and define new goals. And this is what we achieve with the transition model. So again, going from the change model, confusion, fear-driven when things are happening, and moving towards meaning. And the focus of today is, this is the curve of change, is going to be on transition. So if we look at the model of William Bridges, which is transition, and this is what he says. Transition is made of 3 different parts. The first part is endings. The second part is the neutral zone. And the third are the new beginnings. How do we know where we are on this model? It's very important to know where you are on this model. If you feel like you are resisting whatever is happening and seeing there's no light at the end of the tunnel and there's no use to change, no, at an emotional level, you are still at the ending period. And now we're going to talk about emotions in the second slides. If you feel like you are out of balance and you really, it's in a place where it's very, uncomfortable and you're not doing anything about it, you are in the neutral zone. However, being in the neutral zone is where opportunities lie. Because if you shift from out of balance to curiosity and hope and use the skills that I just shared with you, or some of them, you will be able to start looking at things internally, externally, so you can develop or start seeing the light at the end of the tunnel for now. We'll talk about the details later. And then if you have a better sense of direction and you're taking action, it means you are already in the new beginnings. And does this go like straightforward? No, you could be oscillating between 1, 2, and 3. How do we counter resistance? By accepting and letting go. How do we counter out of balance? By curiosity and hope. And the new beginnings are governed by direction, alignment, and commitment, as I said before. You cannot reach something new if your hands are full with yesterday's junk. Let's look at how do we plan the transition at the level of endings. So anchoring in reality and acknowledging what's happened. We start with assessing and accepting. To know that we are in this phase, we are feeling anger, maybe we are, a collective loss, a shock, a denial, fear, or sadness. These are the feelings that govern this part of the transition. What are the skills that are quite needed to move forward? Actually, communication goes across the 3, because I need to communicate well with myself, and I need to communicate well with the team of people that I'm working with. So it's clarity of values, identifying our locus of control, social and emotional intelligence, because people are at this stage, people are very emotional. So we need to understand our emotions, manage their emotions, or help them manage their emotions to manage the relationships and the outcome. Some of the questions that we could ask ourselves when we are in this phase are, what are the feelings that are governing your thought and behavior? What do you need to let go of? And what are the strengths that you have that you are willing to bring forward that will really support you in pivoting when you get to the neutral zone? So it's about admitting new realities, letting go, and building the strength. In times of crisis is not the problem. It's trying to fix it with yesterday's logic. So the neutral zone is about exploring with curiosity and hope. So revisiting and pivoting. The feelings could be resentment, confusion. This is if we are out of balance. So what are the skills we need? We need communication. We need to access our growth mindset. We need to have ease with uncertainty and counter the VUCA by internal, external, maybe revisiting the business model, maybe revisiting the strategy, could be also revisiting the vision and the mission, because pivoting could come at any level. It's not relevant to one thing. Some of the questions are, what are you going to do about it? Looking at things from a fresh eye, connecting to your values, revisiting vision. What are possible scenarios? So here we're mitigating risks. What are the emerging opportunities? So what we need is actually flexibility and adaptation and a new perspective. And then when we are able to do all of this, we come to the new beginnings. It is governed by new reality, normalcy, and emergence. So it's like you are the butterfly again. Yeah. So the feeling are excitement, energized, open to learning and commitment, skills, communication, grounded positivity, learning and developing is very key, reskilling and upskilling. And the questions we could ask ourselves when we are in this zone are, what would your ideal new normal look like? What would work? Who can support you? And how can we align all together in achieving this? And what are we committing to, committing ourselves to? So it's about viable options, insight, and taking actions. In summary, the spectrum from fear-driven, where confusion is happening, and finding meaning, I call it, which is love-driven, and understanding that we have more in common than what sets us apart. These are key things that actually are guiding us towards. So focus on the crisis, which is this change. When we are on the other spectrum or in grounded positivity, we're focusing on opportunities. Dysfunction rises, dysfunction drops. Scarcity and competition turns into abundance and collaboration. Victimizing, martyrdom, and spectatorship becomes player. External locus of control becomes internal locus of control, so on and so forth. So we will be able to shift, and I'm going to take you back to this slide, which I didn't spend much time on. So moving from here to here is exactly countering what is taking place on the fragmentation and fear level to love-driven and finding meaning. And voila, je suis done.